Hi there, and thank you for tuning into the Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Good morning, good afternoon, and hello everyone, and welcome to the Social Circus. My name is Sarah Thompson, and I am your host today, and I'm very excited to welcome you to episode 6. Today, I'm going to be talking. I bet we'll wander all around everything, but I've got the wonderful Jo Bendle with me. Hi, Jo.
Hello. I agree. I think we're going to go all over the place with this.
So, Jo, we were just discussing before we started recording that you and I go way back, and we actually couldn't establish how we'd first met. We've never met in real life because you are located in Europe and I'm down here in Australia. But we met, I reckon, 8 years ago.
Yeah, I would say at least, yeah.
So if people haven't heard of you, let's hear a little bit about your journey and your foray into being a wildly successful entrepreneur.
Yes, well, hi, thanks for having me. I'm Jo, and so this year I've actually been in business for 10 years, which is quite mind-blowing. It's amazing. And, it's been like, this is part of my thing, is like, I'm super passionate about empowering women in business to claim more from their life and their business. And that's really what my own journey has been about. And it all started when I was back in the UK and I realized, oh my gosh, like I'm in a relationship that isn't fulfilling me and also isn't enabling me to live the life, that I had in my mind for my dreams. Like there was a disconnect. And this kept happening to me along the way. It's like things would happen and I would have to make a choice of actually I want something different, I want more, and the vision that I'd had for my business looked different. So making these hard choices, and all along the way I noticed, right, there's certain things that I've had to like really focus on. So when I first started, I was really known as productivity coach, and I was helping women to really reclaim their time and to be working on the right thing. And as I was doing that, I realized, I want to travel more. So I ended up going location independent and sort of, like meeting all these growing this amazingly global audience. And then realizing, I remember actually I went to a conference in Canada and I went to stay with a friend of mine that I'd met in a mastermind a few years before, but we'd never met. And I walked into her lovely little apartment in downtown Toronto. And I just looked at her shelves and was like, oh, I really want shelves. And it was like this bookshelf. She had all these books. I've been living out of a suitcase for like 3 years. And I realized, oh, okay, I'm ready to get a home again. I'm ready to get a base again. But this is the reason
I love the books for your trigger. That would be so me.
Yeah. I was like, I want books. I want shelves. And the reason I share that is because always along the way, there's like these little nudges of, I want more, I'm ready for more. And so my business has kind of evolved, but as I've grown and as I've evolved, and so I'm still teaching some of the same stuff that I was always teaching, but then bringing in, this is the struggle I had along the way, like with my mindset and not knowing what I really, like what I was working towards. And so after I got the shelf story, I ended up buying a home in Spain. I had no idea I was going to end up in Spain. And I think that's part of the story is I've now got this beautifully global business that absolutely lights me up. And I get to talk to amazing women and, like it's all about women supporting women and like empowering them to claim their more. And this has just been built so organically around my own journey of, hang on, checking in, I'm not really fulfilled. Or the classic one was when I started traveling and I was all about freedom. It's like, absolutely, freedom is my top priority. I'm not going to tie myself into a schedule, And then of course I had all this time freedom, but I didn't have financial freedom. And that's when I was like, I have to implement my own productivity tools. So then when I started actually like practicing what I preach, things changed and I actually had more freedom. And that's kind of been the journey of like really just looking what's working for me, what's not working, and sharing it and keeping it real. So my mission is like really helping other women to step up and claim their more, but also doing it from this really keeping it real, open, honest, like authentic place of, it's actually really hard to claim more. And it's all of the stuff that comes with that. So that's kind of like random overview of what got me.
And oh my gosh, there's so much I want to unpack in that. I don't actually know what's up, but if it's all right, and I know it's not directly related to your current business, but talk to me a little bit about being a location independent entrepreneur, because it's something that we see such a lot of, especially on Insta. And to be fair, I've lived in different locations around the world. But I've lived there. I haven't been I've had an apartment and stuff like that. So it's never been what my journey was. And then by the time I became a business owner, I had children. So that's like, hats off to all of you that do that, but they're too chaotic. I've got boys. So that was never my dream. And I always looked at people and was like, I wonder if that would have been a different parallel path. So you went into it because you had those little rumblings that you wanted to do more. And so did you approach it with this is where I want to go in the world, or was it really organic? Or I'm so intrigued. I probably should have you back just to talk about that, but let's just
Yeah, I'll give you a quick. So I've always been somebody that loves to travel. So in my 20s, I would take myself off backpacking. And so it was always something that's in me. Like, I love to travel. And when I started my business, I was like, right, I knew I wanted it to be location independent. So I built it that it was online. So I wasn't doing offline coaching. Everything was online. I knew, but my lifestyle
10 years ago was pretty big.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, exactly. But this is again about having at least some clarity about what you want your lifestyle to look like when you're creating when you're setting your goals for your business. Like, I knew it's got to be online because I want to be able to do it from anywhere. So then when I started traveling, I just, by my nature, it wasn't like, right, this is the route of the world I'm taking. I'm like, right, one-way flight to somewhere. And so my first place was Australia, because I have a lot of friends in Australia. So I booked this flight to Australia, and you can spend 3 months there. And then I'm like, where to next? So each place was, where will I go next? But what was interesting is, there's so many quick things I'll share. One was it came up as a memory recently on Facebook. I think it was 7 years ago. Yeah, it's brilliant. I wish I hadn't stopped doing those, because it's like, oh my gosh, yeah. 7 years ago, I was in Bangkok and I went to a digital nomad conference. Now,
wow.
I can remember, yeah, exactly that. I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to find my people. This is so exciting. And I was so disappointed. I got there and I was like, these are not my people. Oh my gosh, these are not my people. And it was just a reality check of, it doesn't, how many times have we all felt like I don't fit in, or people don't understand me? And that was my experience of location independence, because I wasn't trying to be in the cheapest country because that's all I could afford. I wanted to create the lifestyle that meant I could choose to be in Australia, which obviously, as we know, isn't a necessarily cheap country to be.
Absolutely.
And so I realized, I'm surrounded by people who actually can't even afford to, eat out or whatever. It was just such an interesting, it was like, oh no, this isn't my people. And I went to lots of digital nomad hubs around the world, always had the same realization. Oh, actually, no, this isn't what I'm trying to create. And so again, it's always about being able to come back to, what it looks like online, or etc. It's not really, what is it that you're trying to create? What's going to lead to your fulfillment? What does it look like for you? So that was one thing. And then the other more practical side of it is because freedom was the big goal, it really did make me realize that freedom comes through discipline, and that the more structure I gave myself, and the more decisions that I would make ahead of time around, one, it could be like where I'm going to be, or two, like what I'm working towards, like really giving myself the luxury of already making those decisions and knowing when I'm working, when I'm in playtime, when I'm exploring. Because when I didn't have that structure, the business wasn't growing. So yeah, it was a really interesting process.
That's super interesting. And, listening to you talk, because just so that all of viewers or listeners know, I've been in Joe's mastermind, and it's absolutely amazing. And I would say the structure of your mastermind very much aligns with that. Is here's all my tools that I have, including some massively great productivity tools. But all of these do is create structure to allow you to have freedom to grow. And yes. I would say if someone's to ask me, describe being in Joe's mastermind, that's how I would describe it. Because when I was doing some parts of mastermind, I'm like, I know this. I'm like, but you're not doing it.
Yeah, that's literally my line. It's like, it doesn't matter if, it's not what you know, it's what you do. Most of us are just teaching things that we already know, but we're not doing it. It doesn't have to be a complicated thing. It's a simple thing that if we do it on repeat, changes things.
It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So let's talk about your mastermind, because that is where people, and particularly it's women only.
It is
Yes.
women only. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. And so that's really a place where we come and join your tribe, and we get to be part of lots of touch points, and it's called Meant for More.
Yeah, it's Meant for More, the lab. So everything is all based about Meant for More, and around like women who like know they're meant for more, they refuse to settle. And we, like I always talk about, like, we're the problem and we're the solution. So like generally most of us women, we get in our own way. We think, we overthink things, and so it's
generally almost always
like we get in our own way. Like we're the problem, we're the thing that's stopping us from achieving more. But also, like, the empowering side of that is that we are also the solution. And that for me is ridiculously exciting. It's like, okay, I am also the solution. So like surrounding yourself in this container where we are focused on being the solution. And it's called a lab because what I learned from my own journey is it is all about experimenting and trying and testing and giving things a go. Like when I gave myself permission to embrace the experiment, excuse me, then it took away all this need for like, oh, got to get it right. It was like, it's an experiment. With every experiment, I learn something about, oh, actually, I don't really like working this way, or actually that didn't feel good. And so it's a lab so that we can absolutely all get in there and experiment, because it looks different for all of us. Like our more is different. Everybody's more is different. It's so personal, which is why when everyone's like following this, I don't know, 10K month, 7-figure, blah, 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 all of that. It's like, your more is so much more personal than that. And when you use that, for instance, for me at this very, very start, when I knew I want to be able to travel, like I created a business because I had that as my goal. Now, if I'd been working towards a 6-figure business, I probably would still be in the UK, like working it all out, because it wasn't something that was attached to my personal more. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I have to just share, because obviously I loved being in the lab, and I think within 4 weeks of being in it, I started something that I had probably sat on for about 3 years, because I was really invested in it being, I'm not a perfectionist, but I was really invested in, I have to make this work and it has to be right. And you said something to me, and it sat on my desk as a post-it note to myself, and it said, I'm excited by the possibility of what I can learn. And you told me that, and so I had it on my desk for a year that you had said these wise words to me. And until I rearranged my office at Christmas, that sat there for so long, and it used to always remind me to have that sense of wonder and fun in doing new things, rather than this has to work and this has to be like, it's really changed my mindset substantially.
It's so different, isn't it? Like it's so different when we show up from a completely different energy, when we let go of what we think it should look like, and we're like, and we come back to, the lab. I mean, like from a marketing perspective, this isn't how I would, be sharing it. But the reality is that people get in there and they come out feeling like a different person. So yeah, it's super practical, and it's like getting you into action, getting you focused on the right thing, knowing what your more is, and all of that mindset stuff. But actually what happens is we shift into this, oh my gosh, I'm showing up differently. I feel like a different person. I am, much more aligned to the things that matter to me. And that gives me like all of the feels, because I just want people, I'm always saying, like, I don't want people building the wrong dream. It's just like, are you working towards the thing that actually is going to lead to fulfillment for you? And so I'm constantly bringing people back. So always pulling them forwards into what's possible if we get out of our own way. And also getting the awareness of like, oh, actually, I didn't realize that having so many ideas was a way of playing small, or I didn't realize that, like the ways that we actually just put our foot on the brake. So getting like that awareness around that, but really just turning into like stepping into, oh my gosh, like I'm saying yes to the things that I'm excited by. I'm saying no to things that I used to say yes to, because I've given myself a different permission, permission step. So yeah.
And I love that. I've having done your, because you do annual planning, and I've done those as well, and I love them. And I think one of the things that you put is, what am I no longer available for? And I genuinely, terrifyingly filled that out the first time I did that with you. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm telling the universe something serious, and it's such a big income generator in my business, and what am I doing? And it felt really scary. And actually what it meant was that this is not the future. This is not my big dream.
Yeah.
And so
this is what's meant for more stands for, you know, about being able to say, oh, just because I can doesn't mean I should.
Yes. And also when something's a safe bit of business in your business, anyone who's been in business for any length of time knows the worries of cash flow ever lurk with us. And so when you have safe, reliable income, you're like, oh, this is really good. But what I found with when I wrote that down was something that was taking up it seemed like good income, but it was taking up a massive chunk of time and non-billable time. And so when I realized if I could step back from that, and I didn't actually give it up, I just reduced what I committed to, it gave me this freedom to create things that I'd wanted to do. And Jo and I were catching up before we spoke today, and I was telling her what's been going on in my business this year. And I hope she was feeling like a proud coach that she had enabled that with me, because it definitely feels like that.
Oh, I love that. Of course, you know me, like literally I'm
taking all the accolades.
I know. Well, it's basically the reason that I keep doing what I do, like the reason, because I suffer with self-doubt. I get in my own way, and the way that I'm always able to keep doing the things is because, oh my gosh, when my clients or people that I've worked with or have even been impacted by anything are telling me, oh, Jo, you know, like now I'm doing this, and I know I listened to what you said. That is literally the biggest high for me. Is enough to keep me going. And that's why when we come back to, like, even if you just have this one statement around, like, my, you know, like a mission statement of like, I help women to, you know, claim more from life and business. And that reminds me again and again and again, is like, right, okay, what am I putting out? What am I talking about? Like that is such a powerful thing for me. And talking about like how we change things, there was a time, sometimes we've got to make big decisions. So there was a time in my business where I had this membership, and it was 3 years old.
I was in it.
Paid all my bills. It had at the time that I closed it about 100 members. And I made a really difficult decision to close it. And again, because in my heart, I knew that there was something more that I wanted, because for me, the membership model was, and this is again about, we only know this by experimenting. I had a membership because I wanted to travel. So it was a really great business model for somebody that travels. And then when I got my home and I was like, oh, I'm a bit disconnected. You know, I feel disconnected. What's going on? Oh yeah, I need to dive in more. I want to go deeper with my ladies. And so the business model had to shift. And so, you know, I think this is about, people get stuck and say, I don't know, I haven't got clarity. I don't know what I'm trying to create. It's going to move and evolve and change as you grow. So just pick something for now and know that you can change your mind. And I've got great evidence of like that, you know, after closing the membership, then the lab came, which means that I have a smaller group of women, but I get to go deeper with them, and I know everything about them, and I can pull them forwards or out of a different story because I'm in it with them, beside them. And that is back to my values of connection. So
Gorgeous.
I think I've used my values a lot building my business. There was the freedom, then the connection, and now there's the authenticity. And like that is also another side of you know, if you're building a business that feels good.
I know. And it's interesting because I'm 1 year ahead of you. But to be fair, when I started my business, I had very young children. And I reckon the first 3 years I puddled about very part-time. So I'm probably not. But one of the interesting things about that is that when you start a business, you kind of just think about earning money and doing something that you're good at to earn money. And as the journey progresses, like I feel, especially the last sort of 18 months, I feel very aligned to what my purpose is. And I feel very connected, and I get very emotional when I talk about it, because I feel like I'm doing this small part in changing the world. And it feels really exciting, and it lights you up. And if you're in your business journey, wherever you are, if you can try and connect with that, what's my bigger purpose? I remember, and it was actually in the lab, and the first time I said it, I felt really embarrassed to say it, because I was like, who am I? I'm just like, what am I changing the world like one Facebook page at a time? Like, because we're really easy to dismiss ourselves. And so the first time I really said it, I was like, oh, and then it's on my website now, and I feel very like, this is what I do. I show up and I help women to like build their empire using online tools. That's my like new line that I use. And that's what I want women to do. I want them to build empires. I want them to dream big, and I want them to see that we don't have to have a little business that is just something that we do to pass the time. We can have big dreams and be proud of them. And I love that you have allowed me and all of our women in the mastermind the permission to say that. And so I guess my question would be, because I'm conscious of time and wrapping up, if you could give sort of one piece of advice to our listeners in terms of trying to up-level your thinking, what's, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot or anything, but what's a couple of little things that we could do, like micro actions that might be helpful?
Wow. I mean, yeah, this is like my favorite topic. So like, can we have another 20 minutes? Okay. So I just think in the morning, like literally waking up and choosing what the story is. So we have a thought in our head, and that's a story, and we have to, our job is to change the story every day so that it's a more empowering one. So really stopping and having just one question, like, how can I, like, is this enabling my mission today? Or like, if you think back to that purpose that really lights you up, just connecting with that. If you started saying every morning, Sarah is the type of woman who, and then finish it off with your sentence, empowers women to build use these online tools, like that's it. You say that every morning, you sit with it, you breathe through it, and you're like, okay, how does she show up today? Like there is like that for me is super powerful when I'm thinking about what does that version of me do. So I would start thinking about, I always talk about identity shift. It's like the identity shift is like the version of me who is absolutely doing that, owning it, or claiming that that's who she is. What are her thoughts today? What are her actions? How does she show up? What's the story she's telling herself? Like coaching ourselves for 2 minutes every single morning. It's just like, that's the thing.
It sounds like such an easy action. And it's definitely something, because I know that that's something you kind of drilled into us, is kind of staking our claim in our, our big dream. And I was mortified the first time I expressed that I want women to build empires. Like that's what I actually do want. And now it makes my heart just go, yes. The funny thing was that I was so uncomfortable even saying that, because I was just like, who am I? Like, what am I, Michelle Obama? Like I'm changing the world or something. And I felt like embarrassed to even say that I could claim that. And now it's on the front page of my website.
But isn't this,
that's how much I believe in it.
Yeah, and this is so fantastic for people to remember that it's a process. We don't put the claim out there and I'm like, I've got this. Because if we do, it's not the right one, or it's not big enough, right?
Yeah.
So find a safe place that you can share it. Get somebody that you can share it with that feels a little bit stretchy and uncomfortable. And no, it's like with Meant for More. Like it's a year ago that Meant for More, I got Meant for More trademarked, and it was a process.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, but to be able to step into that and be like, I can't do that. Am I claiming more? And like all of the insecurities and the thoughts, the doubts that came with that, again, showed me, that's here. My job is to pull myself forward. Like this is my job. And it gets easier and easier and easier. Like this comfort zone, when we step out of it, it's hard to start with, but then it feels addictive, doesn't it? And we do it more and more. So
yes, and you keep pushing yourself, don't you, and kind of going, I just have adopted the whole experimental fun aspect to everything that I do. Like, and it makes me, if I'm really honest, and look, it's been a process, but I feel like sometimes like I'm fearless. And my husband says that to me, you're fearless. And I'm like, and I've absolutely blagged it for such a long time. But
it's it's when you start practicing it becomes easier and easier, doesn't it? And I still get occasionally, I'm stepping out. So I've just launched a podcast, and that really challenged me. Yeah. But that was, again, it's like when we do something new, of course it's going to bring up all of our insecurities, and that's normal. And it's your job to find a way to pull yourself through that, because then we come back to, I can't not do this because the mission, the purpose is that. And even if you don't know what it is, like when you started your business, when I started my business, I didn't feel confident enough to say, I'm here to help women X, Y, Z.
Yes.
That it come, at the time, the purpose was freedom for my own lifestyle. But then as we, the more we do, the more we show up, the more experience we get, the purpose and the mission becomes clearer and clearer. And so just trusting wherever you are, it's taking you somewhere to get yourself into experimentation mode. What's the next experiment? That's going to take you somewhere really exciting.
Oh my goodness, you're giving all the feels, Jo. And one day you're going to come to Perth. We've just discussed that offline as well.
Yes.
So Jo, I want to kind of wrap up and just say thank you so much for coming on, because I'm pretty honored to have you as a guest, and for generously sharing your journey and your wisdom about how we as women can step into our Meant for More life. And just so all the listeners know, in my show notes I'll have links to Jo's podcast, her website, and all the cool places that you can find her online. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I'm so grateful to be here. And as you can tell, it's like my favorite things to talk about. So thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks so much for tuning in to The Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thompson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favourite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.